everyone, welcome back to Lunar Arcade. I'm your host Lunar, and this is our new segment called Whatcha Playing, where we talk about the games we're currently diving into that might just catch your interest. Joining me today is my good friend and co-host Soni. He's not only a fellow gamer, but also the one behind the awesome music you hear throughout the show, so definitely go and check out his work on YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. I'll have all his links down below, and we've got a great lineup of games to talk about today, so let's get into it and see what's been keeping us busy. For anyone new here, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss out on my upcoming reviews. So let's hop into it. Welcome back to the show, Sonny. How you been?
Hey, brother. I've been doing good. You know, living life, right? LIVIN. On top of that, I mean, in between our, the day-to-days of life, man, I've been catching up on a couple of games out here. The recent sales and everything, especially this past month, like in October, I was really taking advantage of a lot of the horror bundles and stuff like that. So outside of like the cheap itch.io, 5-cent games that you can get, I've been just kind of going through my backlog of stuff I wanted to play. Like the first game I got to check out was Alan Wake 2. Was never into the Alan Wake series as a whole. I never really played it. I only just saw it pull up on sale as like one of the free games you can get on like the PlayStation Pass, and I was like, out of the 3 games that were like available, I was like, sure, why not? I started playing the game and I was like, oh wow, this is actually pretty interesting. Like, and I felt like for anyone who hasn't played, the general sense of the story when you start the game is like, a writer who has like the power to change reality based on the works that he writes and stuff, and going back and forth between different perspectives of different characters, where there's like an FBI agent who's like trying to investigate the cases and everything. Right. So like half of it is, this Resident Evil style gameplay, right? Where it's like, go ahead, collect, stuff, manage your inventory, and try to dodge between hordes of enemies and whatnot. And, with a kind of like a pretty spooky atmosphere and somewhat. But then you kind of go into like these really weird sections where you're just kind of jumping back and forth between like, different scenarios and scenes of books and whatever like the writer is trying to come up with to kind of help progress the story. Like there's a really cool game mechanic where it's like you'll go through different pages or different scenarios, and you'll go into like your mind palace when you like pause the menu, and you can literally go on the bulletin board and change the scenario of a different setting, and that changes the entire environment. And it's just super cool to see like how dynamic it is and like the way they kind of build it up. Also, like one of the only games I think I've ever really seen where like the characters both go back and forth between live action and rendered CG cutscenes. It's like the actors of the characters are just also doing live action of everything and stuff like that. And I think it adds just like a really cool layer because it's so unique from a lot of other games that try to copy the Resident Evil kind of formula. You know what I mean?
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's definitely some parts where it's like, this is like, okay, this is truly like a thriller game, right? It's about the atmosphere and being spooky. And then there's other times where it's like, why is there an 8-minute long dance number to a rock song? I'm not complaining, but I wasn't expecting this. But yeah, that's the first game I've been checking out here this past month, and highly recommend. Honestly, I thought like I was worried maybe for a second, like I never played the first game, maybe I needed a bit more of a preamble before I jump into it. Playing the second game just fine without any like uptick on the first one. Perfectly fine for me, at least. They gave you the hint. Yeah. Here's pretty much what's happening, but jumping in on its own as an experience, I recommend.
Yeah. I remember you telling me you didn't play the first game, and honestly, I played the first game and I got pretty far. I don't remember if I beat it because it was so long ago, but now they have like a HD remaster of it, where it's same graphics, it's just in HD. And I remember at the time, like as one who steered away from like horror games, because I'm a little chicken when it comes to those games, especially if I'm by myself, I actually found myself coming back to the game because I was like, damn, like yes, it was suspenseful, but it wasn't as terrifying as Resident Evil itself. Some of the more not the more action-based ones, but the more horror-based ones. And so the second game, like when I saw it, like it was definitely on my wish list and I definitely want to play it. And one of the things I found really cool about it is like what you were saying before with how the cutscenes can shift to like live action. You have the actors actually acting, which is very like reminiscent of like older games that kind of did something like that, like Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, exactly. Where they couldn't animate it, directly. So they're like, we'll just do still frame animations with real people. Yeah. Because it was probably cheaper for them to do that in a studio and cameras compared to like, let's just get a whole animation studio to do it, especially like 3D at the time, right? And those eras weren't going to hold up in comparison to what it would be today and shooting it back and forth. But yeah, I like it. It's very camp. I guess that's the right way I've been trying to describe it. It's been a super enjoyable experience. I recommend it to anybody out here watching.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And as far as like what I've been playing a multitude of things because I'm trying to get reviews out. I just did a review of Suikoden 1, beat that, and then the HD remaster. But one of the other games I'm playing because I'm going to be working on a review for is Dragon Quest 1 from the HD remaster.
Oh, nice.
So I've been playing through that, and that one I figured I could bang out because it's not as long. It's a more shorter game. Like if you were to bum rush through it, people are saying you can do it in 10 hours, but I've been semi taking my time with it, and I'm past the 10-hour mark already, and I'm not near the final boss yet. So, but it's a really good game, and it's improved over the HD remaster of Dragon Quest 3 because other features that I wish 3 had, or at least put it in an update or something, where you can make shortcuts for, I don't know if you're familiar with Dragon Quest, but you can make shortcuts for your abilities and moves or spells, so that you press and hold R1 and then press up on the D-pad and it's zoom, and or press left and it's and instead of having to jump through the menus, because it's like, while it's traditional and I appreciate that, like sometimes I feel like traditional like is too much. Like you have to, when I have to jump through all these menus to get something done, it kind of wears you out after a while. But that's one of the big improvements that I've seen. I'm playing primarily on the Steam Deck, and the performance is really good. Like there's only a couple of places where the performance drops, and that's running at max settings. You can lower the settings to get a solid FPS, probably shadows, but at max everything runs smoothly and drops to like maybe down to 50 from 60, and that's only in areas where it's like densely you have trees everywhere, stuff like that. But in most towns and everything, it's solid 60. Really fun. I never played the original Dragon Quest 1, so it was something that I thought about doing, but once I heard about the HD remaster coming out, I was like, I'll wait. And it seems like the definitive way to play, so that's what I'm going to do. Same thing with the second game. I've never played the second game, so it's going to be an experience for me. And I know they're really well liked, at least the originals.
I mean, it's a beautiful series. Yeah, I mean, like it's highly regarded for a reason. And like all those things that you mentioned about like quality of light changes, I've seen that honestly for like quite a few games, especially for a lot more retro stuff. Even for like a lot of re-releases or remasters for older games. Like I mean, when I play the current versions of like Final Fantasy now on digital, right, on like whether it's on PS4 or Switch or whatever, I mean they have like a whole cheat button now, when I play through the game. Well, because before, you were just like, when you're going through the overworld, deal with it. You run into a cactuar. I hope you saved recently. If you didn't, tough nuts, dude. I don't know what else to tell you. But like, you could literally just like press like an additional trigger and be like, okay, here's a bunch of cheats you can enable where you can do like 9999 damage all the time. You could basically go Super Saiyan, because the gimmick in that was like you could do the trance, right? As opposed to like the limit breaks or whatever, like in 7 or whatever. So like, there's like all sorts of stuff that you could have done, for that type of stuff. And I personally like it because it just lets you really focus on the story aspect if you want to not be bogged down by the grind of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like sometimes it's for better or for worse. Like, I mean, we'll always bring up Pokemon and kind of dunk on it for a second. Yeah, it's mandatory here. But it's like, you play the old Pokemon games, you're like, oh man, I remember when I had to like actually go out there and grind in Rustboro City to go to this next place because Team Aqua kept blocking the way and I didn't have strong enough Pokemon. I didn't have the right blah blah blah, Now, like anything I've seen from like the newer ones, it's like, yeah, I played for like 20 minutes and I beat the game. I didn't have to think about it, So I'm like, okay, there you go, man.
But no, what else have you been playing?
I've been revisiting a couple of games too. I've been replaying Bomb Rush Cyberpunk just because
it's still on my list.
Beat the game and everything, and I was like, man, this is so cool. I also just kept seeing like trailers and stuff for like the Jet Set Radio remake too recently. Like it just popped up on my feed and it just made me think like, you know what, I am pretty excited to see this come out. I think I'd like to see where this can kind of go on. And plus, the developers of Bomb Rush Cyberpunk are now releasing a new game, which is it's a sequel, prequel kind of thing. It's the second game, but it takes place before the first game, before the current events of the first game, and it's called Bomb Rush Hyperfunk, which has some pretty.
I didn't know there was another.
Yeah, they did like a small announcement of it, like online and things like that. It didn't get any sort of like crazy hype, at least in the circle that I kind of follow. But for me personally, I'm like, more awesome stuff to come out from this studio, done. You know what I mean? Because like, they've had a pretty killer lineup. Like, not even just talking about Bomber or Cyberpunk, but just like all the other games that they had done before, you know, just their style, the cell shading and everything. I'm such a sucker for it. So it's like for them to have this super cool, consistent style of molding it into different genres, right? Whether it's like high-paced action fighters to something now that's like more of like an open world kind of skating, grind fiction core game, whatever. Not to mention the soundtrack was absolutely phenomenal. You know, being like I will literally still just like
no soundtracks make those games.
I mean, and like, I know as much as it is, what's the correct phrase? Like a successor to the Jet Set Radio franchise. I would argue that maybe it potentially surpasses it. It's because of like, Jet Set Radio definitely set the mold, and with Jet Set Radio Future, it really improved upon itself. And Jet Set Radio Future, I think, is still kind of like the core standard of what grind fiction is to me. And when I see a game like Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, I think that's it. You know what I mean? Like the only way you could take Jet Set Radio up another notch is to go on the larger level of like, here's a pretty well-balanced, straightforward story. Here's cool ways to trick. Here's cool ways to navigate. And here's, you know, modernized audience to grab and follow, you know? It's like even getting the original composer, Hideki Naganuma, to jump on it and, you know, throw down a track and just like an homage. But then on top of that, getting like other artists like Dominic Lennon, formerly from, you know, Brockhampton, is his own solo stuff, to like come in and do his own thing. And like to have like such a diverse soundtrack in Bomber or Cyberpunk, I think like it's so much more open in comparison to the original. The original was still like goated for a reason, but like I feel like the Jet Set Radio games were more like, these are songs that we think are cool that fit the game. And I think Bomber or Cyberpunk did the same thing, but then they were like, I also want to be able to listen to stuff outside of the game, you know, to not hear this song and think of the game itself. Like that's the vibe that I get, you know what I mean? Like pulling more independent stuff as opposed to a lot of Jet Set Radio's discography was like Hideki Naganuma or the Latch Bros or XYZ. Like there's only maybe like 2 or 3 artists that like did a lot of it, and then we're like, and then put in Seven Nation Army. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I just really like the way that they kind of like built it around just like, let's just make a really cool playlist and say that's it. That's the soundtrack.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I feel like with the absence of Jet Set Radio Future, because we're still waiting on that reboot / continuation of the game, it's like the best time to capitalize on it because people want more of that type of game or gameplay and mixed with the music and everything like that. And still no word. I haven't heard any word on that.
Yeah, all they showed was like that 2-second clip, right?
And then silence, just silence.
Well, because they were also doing it for like a bunch of games. It was like a bundle thing that they were doing, because it's not just Jet Set Radio, it's also like a new Crazy Taxi game and everything else like that, which like kind of like reminds me of like, you know, there's always this trend of like whatever was popular like 20 years ago is what's going to get pushed now, right?
Yeah. Back
in 2000s, it was what was in the 80s. Now we're here in 2025, and now everything that was awesome in 2005 is coming back because we're like, yeah, that was awesome. You know what I mean? So it doesn't surprise me that like these separate reboots and stuff are coming back, right? Like it's always been happening. I'm just excited for it because now it's the stuff that I like, you know? So
yeah, I feel you there. As far as like other games and stuff, have you ever heard of, I'm a big fan of the company NIS or NIS?
Yeah.
They make a lot of games. They're responsible for the Disgaea series. Have you ever heard of Disgaea?
Yeah.
You haven't played any, have you?
No, but I'm familiar of the games though.
Yeah, I beat the first game that had our HD remaster, played the HD remaster, and then I got addicted. Because I never thought I would get into that type of game with the tactics and everything like that. But it's really, really good. And I watched some like reviews and stuff of the games as to why Disgaea is so awesome. And it's just the amount of freedom you have for your characters and stuff like that is incredible. And for anyone who likes tactic games, I highly recommend it. Right now, I'm like jumping between the two because I already had a couple, but I want to beat them in sequential order, even though the stories have nothing to do with each other. Not really, but you do see like, you have like crossovers where you'll have characters from other games show up and you can even recruit them as characters on your team. So, because I want to know who the character
universe and stuff that they can pull.
Yeah, and they talk about that. Like ever since you get like, you know, from the first game, they talk about the Netherworld, and there's many different Netherworlds with many different overlords and stuff like that. So, and each game you're usually a different overlord or someone related to an overlord or something like that, and they each have their own reasons for doing things. And so there is story, and it's usually quite humorous. They get really good voice actors too. Like right now, also jumping between the third game, Disgaea 3, where you're kind of like in an academy, like a school where, you know, in the netherworld, you have to do the opposite of good things or whatever.
Right.
Otherwise, if you do good things, you're a delinquent. And
of course,
you can have homeroom classes, and you can actually put people next to each other. And then the combos you can do in battle are insane. Like some of the stuff you can do, you can actually take any of the equipment that you equip on your character and actually go inside of the item, which is called the item world. And every level you beat inside of the item world levels up that weapon. And not only that, but inside of each of your gear, there are things called innocents. Innocents are kind of like, you can think of them as little residents of a weapon, which, you know, they could be a monster or whatever. But when you beat them inside the weapon, you actually gain the innocent. You have to get to level 10 inside of a weapon before you can escape, or you have to use a special item to escape. Then once you capture an innocent, you can transfer that innocent to a different weapon or piece of gear. So it's like, as you do the math in your head, you're like, wait a minute, I could have like this, if I go into this weapon and I get the innocence from this weapon or gear, and then I transfer it to this gear and get the stats from those innocents, you can just get like a really OP character and equip all of that shit to him, and then it's just insane.
That's a really sick mechanic though. Eat your heart out, Kingdom Hearts fans. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
All this talk about innocence and this and that and the other. I'm like, geez, man.
Yeah, and then you have these things called geoblocks, which those are those blocks. So the blocks, when they're on the color on the ground, will change the color based on the block that's on it. And you can do like chains. So when you destroy one geoblock of one color, it changes the colors. It changes the
whatever
color
else
of the
adjacent
floor.
to that. If it goes from there, then it'll
and
like
then if you do a full combo, it'll break all the blocks, and you can beat a stage without even touching anyone.
That's pretty.
So like, yeah, and then when you do that, there's also, you see how on the you'll see it in a second, like where it says bonus on the top right. It showed it for just a moment, but it was like a +1. Anyway. Every stage has 9 bonus items. So if you manage to get the bonus all the way up, which is a lot easier to do with the geoblock chaining, if you do that, you can get all the items from level 1 to 9 that are in the bonus for that stage. And it's
That's a pretty
insane.
cool way to kind of go about it though too, right? Because like, I don't know, at least for me, like any sort of tactics games was like a Fire Emblem for me. You know?
Yeah.
So like I'm so used to like the triangle system, right? Like rock, piece, paper, so on and so forth, right? Between this, that, and the other. So it's nice to see like a different kind of aspect to it of like, you know, it's not just about positioning and advantage types or blah blah blah, you know what I mean? But quite literally like utilizing the environment itself to your advantage and planning your whole like strategy around that. I think that's pretty sick.
Yeah, it is. And based on characters that are adjacent to you, you can do combos where you attack a person, and based on your relationship with that character that's on your team, you can have like a higher percentage of a combo actually happening. You can also force combos by forcing them to use their skills,
I love that one is.
Yeah, it's sprite based, but now, like nowadays, they have the 3D games now, like where they're all 3D. And I just got one on sale, Disgaea 6. And Disgaea 6, like the animations when you use skills and stuff is insane. Like it looks super cool, but I'm still a fan of the sprite based. I feel like these games don't age because they're just good games. But I'm making my way through them sequentially, like I mentioned earlier, because it's just so much. But this is what it looks like in 3D. It's just the art style, more of the same art style, but now like fully 3D. You have the story, like this is how the story is presented and stuff like that, when you can see in the trailer. But now it's like fully 3D, and then you have these big maps. They still have geoblocks because that's just the thing of the series.
Yeah, it's part of the game.
Yeah. And it's funny because they even have like the humor in the game is great. Like the humor, they even have these characters that are kind of like the Power Rangers, but they're called the Prism Rangers.
Oh,
instead.
Not too far off, right? I will say it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Shantae. The art style reminds me between like the Shantae games and something like Madoka. What's it called? Magic Madoka or something like that. Like one of those like very chibi kind of like puffy character looking designs or whatever. Some stuff like that. But I like it though.
Yeah, it's really fun. Like it's literally one of the best tactics games out there. I'll be honest. Like it's just one of those things that took me by surprise because I like tactics games. I was more used to things like Final Fantasy Tactics, that kind of tactics type game, but this takes it to a whole new level. And you can literally put hundreds of hours, like if you want to. You can go straight through the story, beat the game and be done, but there is so much more to do. If you just put that on the side, like just to level up my characters and do the same thing where I was talking about going into items and leveling up those items, you can actually spend hours doing that. And in a lot of the games, you have like kind of have like a court session where you can like vote on rules or certain things that you want to be passed, like embezzlement and like all kinds of crazy stuff to get more money. And if you lose the vote, you can actually kick their ass and then like overrule them. But it's really difficult because the people in the court session are usually like level 99999, but you can get to those levels, which is insane. Yeah, it's pretty fun. So that's something I'm playing.
That kind of reminds me of like, you know, when people like when like the first couple of Dark Souls games were out, right? And people were kind of posting like videos of like beating the final boss with nothing but my underwear and a spoon. You know, it's like you could do it, but it's not easy. Or like I guess like another example is like I remember when the first when Breath of the Wild came out, I remember like I did a speed run of it personally, and I was trying to like do the whole trick of like, you know, landing on like an enemy and like bouncing myself off, you know, and like just getting myself to the castle and stuff like that. And then I realized like, oh yeah, I quite literally am just in my underwear running around, 2 hearts, you know, and I'm like, I'm gonna fight again. And I never beat it obviously, but I'm just like, you know, the fact that they let you even try, you know what I mean, like to not box you in and to let you even get creative is just so rewarding should you even get to that point, you know what I mean?
It really is. And it's just something I heard in a review, and I think that's exactly right. He says that people usually like systems, you know, right? And this system lets you, it gives you so much freedom and you can do so much stuff. The court system, voting on stuff, you can create characters, and then you also have to like if you want to make a really powerful character right from the get-go, you have to vote for that. And you have to see whether it gets passed. You can save scum if you want, which I do sometimes where like I don't have the money or whatever. I'm like, nope, let's start over. It says 52%, so it's got to work at some point. And then
I'm the exact same way. Especially like when Baldur's Gate came out, you know, Baldur's Gate 3 was out and everything. I was like, I know that like as somebody who plays D&D and hosts D&D games, I know the way the dice roll, it is what it is. But because I know that's how it is when the dice roll, you know, if I could get a second chance at that, hey, F5, let's do it. Run it back.
Absolutely. And it's just super addicting. And again, they're up to the 7th game now, and they have another game coming out next year that isn't Disgaea. It's another game, but it's the same creators, so it looks like Disgaea. Yeah. It's more of an action game instead of a turn-based. Yeah. But because I know turn-based is not everybody's thing, but it's something that Final Fantasy Tactics and Fire Emblem pulled me into the tactics world, which opened up a lot of doors for me. But,
well, speaking of games that should have a 7th installment but probably won't, I've been playing Dead or Alive.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I missed Dead or Alive.
Well, you know, I'm a big fighting game fan, and I never got into Dead or Alive. I just missed the train on it. And partially is because, like, you know, I'm such a diehard Tekken fan or a Street Fighter fan or a Guilty Gear kind of guy. Like, it was just, like, you know, it was just not something I wanted to juggle. But I knew it was in the same vein as a Virtua Fighter. And I wasn't really that great at Virtua Fighter, and I didn't really understand the system well enough to, like, dive that deep into it. But when I would see, like, higher level gameplay of something like Virtua Fighter, I'd be like, that looks super sick. Because, like, instead of it being like, hey, here's your kicks and here's your punches, it's like, or like, you know, like in Tekken, every button is a limb. Instead, it's like, you know, here's your striking buttons, here's your throwing buttons, and here's your reversal buttons. And it's another rock, paper, scissors game where you have to keep your opponent guessing, right? So it's like, there's the game in front of you, but then there's the mind game on top of it of trying to see, like, what actually can happen. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, I believe he was one of the directors, or if not the creator, like the head creator of the Dead or Alive franchise when it first came out. He had passed away not too long ago, which is kind of giving this resurgence of the Dead or Alive franchise, which is kind of ironic, right? It's like the game died, and he wasn't even a part of these more recent installments. He left around 4 or 5, you know, or like he was fired or something like that. And now that, like, he's passed and people were, like, paying their respects, now they're putting themselves into more of these newer games and stuff. And I've been specifically playing the 5th game. There's 6 in total, but nobody really likes the 6th game, and I kind of agree with what's kind of out there. Not with what initially caused it to kind of go downhill, which was they decided to put clothing on the characters. That was never opposed to either end of that spectrum. That was never a problem for me, whether it was one or another. I always just picked the Bruce Lee character anyway, and I don't care about the rest of it, you know?
Yeah.
But like the biggest thing was like Dead or Alive always had tag teams that you could do as just like an extra mode, you know what I mean? And you could just do like really sick combos, this, that, and the other. They introduced a meter system that they never really did before, and it was just not really well done, XYZ. But because of all the stuff I had done, like I played like the demo version for free, you know, online, and then I was like, all right, not for me, let me roll it back and try the 5th one, and that felt a lot better. And that made me think like this game series could have been a lot better if they played their cards right. And I think people are expecting like, oh well, we like it now, can we get one now? Yeah, I'm like, no, they're not gonna spend millions of dollars because you like it now, you know? That's super rare. Even if they were like, today we're gonna go ahead and put a team together and try to make it happen, we wouldn't see the game in years. Not to mention that like a lot of people who worked on the Dead or Alive games actually moved over to the Tekken team, which is why like, you know, Dead or Alive was super famous for like its stage design, specifically like the way you would transition between different places that would break in the stage. You could literally be on a building that's like doing construction, you kick your opponent into like a girder, and then like you roll off the building together, you surf on their body going down the building, and then you end up in the streets below. It would be crazy shit like that, you know? With that being said, now Tekken 8 has kind of taken a slightly similar approach of stage design, where it's like you could, you know, you're on a falling asteroid in space, you know, as a stage, and if you bounce somebody on the floor, you know, like it erupts the magma inside this asteroid and this shoots them up, and that lets you continue your combo. And that's something that like Dead or Alive would have done, if not already, you know what I mean?
Yeah, those are games that like, I was very bad at fighting games, but there were a few games that were staples for me that I loved playing. Dead or Alive, Bloody Roar, Soul Calibur, like those types of games. Like I was always, even if I got my ass kicked, they were just fun to play, you know?
And like, you know, when you play a game like Dead or Alive or Soul Calibur or something like that, like the flow of it, when you see somebody who really knows how to play, it can get you hooked. Even if like the skill level is just this, you know what I mean, to just try to get into it, you know what I mean? Like if you really want to get to that level, you can. I think the problem, like even with a game like with Soul Calibur 6, which I've also been playing, is like people didn't like it at the time because it was trying to do something, and then the developers just pulled back on it. Like I think specifically for Dead or Alive 6, they wanted it to be like esports friendly, you know what I mean, the same way like a Tekken game is, right, or XYZ other game is, you know what I mean? That they unfortunately alienated a lot of fans who didn't want that. They just wanted to do their own thing, you know, so it is what it is. However, I think the silver lining is that more people are starting to go back and appreciate those types of games, and in general kind of go back to other games as well. Probably like not always jumping to the latest game of the series, but trying to see what else is available and etc. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool. Also, shout out Bloody Roar. What a fantastic game series.
Yeah, I know. I miss it. I wish they would reboot the franchise, or at least somebody do a spin-off, something.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't know, especially with those games too. Like I remember I had Bloody Roar 2 on like a demo disc, and I would play that all the time because I was like, you know, like you're 10 years old, turning into a wolf it's the best thing in the world. You're like, I wish I could do this in real life. You know what I mean? And now it's like, you know, I think especially if they try doing it something now, I think some of the hype would probably be lost. I think they'd have to really, really reinvent themselves in a certain type of way. Because I know the biggest problem with Bloody Roar was not just the gameplay or the characters, it was really the story. Like, they didn't know what else to do. The whole thing was like, there's humans, and then there's humans who cannot be humans sometimes. And then, like, yeah, it's like, even like with the fighting games like Tekken, where it's like the most toxic family reunion at all times, you know what I mean? It's just like, then he turns into a demon, then he was a demon, and she was a demon. It's like, is there anyone else who's not just a demon in this game who's like related to the mainline family? No? Okay, cool. I guess we're just gonna presume that's that. But like, even in comparison to that, like the story kept at least kind of moving forward between game to game. I think Bloody Roar kind of got stagnant for a second, didn't know what to do with it, and just like general loss of interest, unfortunately, kind of fell
What's
off.
the other one that I never really played, but people swear by it, say it was really good? Like something Gemstone, somebody's probably like anyone
Power
watching this.
Stone?
Yeah, there we go, Power Stone. I was like, something
Yeah, that's
Stone.
the one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it
People,
looks fun. Like I want to play it. I have emulator, so I could get it like immediately. But I just have such a backlog. I'm doing reviews and stuff. I'm focused on more review stuff at the moment. But
I
there's
mean,
so
you know
many
how it
games.
is though. It's like at this rate with like how many games come out. You know what I mean? It's like
It's hard.
there's
to
gonna be
keep
more
up.
video games than people on Earth at some point. You know,
Yeah,
it's like
basically. There's so many games that are on sale, and I have to be honest with myself. I'm like, Chris, you're never gonna get to this extra farming sim when you have like 10 more farming sims you never played through, but you got on sale. And farming sims can take forever
Yeah,
depending on the game.
Chris on your left shoulder is telling you don't do it. The Chris on your right is saying, well, Power Wash Simulator is on sale.
Exactly, and I'm like, damn. But I also want to try different things because, like, you're doing game reviews and stuff like that. You never know what someone's interest and where their interest lies. So,
Well, no, for
one of
sure.
the
Like it's also, I think, I think for me the thing I had to get myself out of when it came to playing games was like to not hold myself down to only a specific type of game to play.
Yeah.
Like I grew up playing only realistically fighting games and then like FPS shooters, and then that was kind of it for like my tail end. Outside for like, again, like Final Fantasy IX, like that was kind of like the tipping point for me to be like, oh man, that's like a peak game to me, and like that opened me to being more open to like RPGs and different types of RPGs, and then just like puzzle games or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like I even looked at a game like Catherine, and I was like, why not? I was like, this is just the Tower of Babel simulator. Just see what we can do. But I'm like, it was a fun game. Why not?
I remember playing the demo and having a good time with it. I never bought it, but the demo was fun. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
me
this is
either.
better than I thought it was. And then the last game I have that I'm currently playing, because it's another game I'm planning to review. I did 2 reviews, one for the first game in the arc and then the second game that came out in the arc. Playing Trails of Cold Steel 3. I don't know if I ever brought this series up to you, but I highly recommend. If you love JRPGs, you have to get into this series, man. I'm serious. Like, it starts off with Trails in the Sky. And Trails in the Sky, they just remade the first game. So the first 3 games that came out were in a chibi art style, kind of like 3D pressed to 2D, but the environments, like the buildings and stuff, were all 3D. So that's where it started. And that goes all the way up to 4 and 5. And then the 6th game, which Trails of Cold Steel, that's where I started my first review of this series, because it's a good place to start. But I do recommend going first to the beginning because they do a lot of references. It's one of the only JRPG series that will actually continue the story from the very first game. It's literally like the same things going on, and there's this overarching world and all this stuff going on simultaneously, and all the games connect, all of them. And like in the very first game, you're in one continent, one part of the world called Liberal, and then the 4 and 5 take place in a like independent state that is between these countries, and you play as police officers, and sometimes you even see characters from the first arc showing up, and you get to see them, and you're like, oh shit,
But that's actually a really cool take on it, because it's less of like playing a part in a game as much as it is more like a chapter in an overarching book, right?
Basically, yeah, it's basically like a book kind of, or a very long TV show series or movie, and there's all this stuff going on. And all the events politically, and you have an evil organization, of course, but all of that is going, like, it's like they can take their time to flesh out like a really interesting story instead of like rushing to the end of the game and that's it. And they even have another game in the series coming out in January,
Really?
And then so after the 4 and 5, and you can get all these games on Steam right now, but the first game, again, they completely remade it, completely 3D, more action RPG like Final Fantasy VII instead of turn-based as much. I think it still has turn-based in it. There's a free demo right now on PlayStation where you could try it out. And one of the things I really appreciate about it also is that when you talk to NPCs, if you're one of those people like me, I like talking to NPCs, see what they have to say. After like the events go on through the game, all of the NPCs in the game have something else to say. So it's like they change what they're saying. Yeah, it's like And not only that, but you want to do this. And I use a guide only because to get like the ultimate weapons at the end of the game, there are so many things that you can easily miss because you didn't decide or think of, well, I need to go back to this town just because I feel it. My intuition is telling me. That's how secretive some of those things you can miss. But anyway, after 4 and 5, you're police officers and you're part of a detective agency. 6, 7, 8 is basically the Erebonian arc. So now you're in another country you've only heard of in previous games. You hear about the country, but you've never been there. Now you're in that country and you play as students. And you have this, it's kind of like Persona where you spend time with your characters and stuff like that. And you can develop relationships and that can carry over into other games. But then 3, because 6 and 7 were made for the PS Vita and PS3, but now they're on everything, PS4, PC. 3 started off on a new engine, so like it doesn't carry over what 6 and 7 were. It kind of like a blank slate, but the graphics were like way overhauled. So now it looks even better. And the games have progressively gotten, as you would expect, better looking over the years. And with Trails in the Sky, like if you look at the graphics of that one actually looks really, really good. Like anime, but then also they got depth of field and they have like a sheen on their skin. It looks really good. But story-wise, it's amazing. You're going to laugh. You're going to cry. There's so many characters. You're going to remember all of them, especially because characters are going to be crossing between games all the time. I highly, highly recommend getting into it.
I do really love it when games kind of incorporate that type of stuff, especially in overarching series like that. Like that's always kind of been like the one thing, like, you know, like one of my
the series does that.
Yeah, it's like, you know, like I love Persona, right? And like I know that like when we kind of like when me and you talk about it, right? It's like we know that between like 3, 4, and 5, and like other parts in like the other games, right? It's like Igor is always the central figure, kind of pulling these things together, right? But it's like all this stuff happens in such a small centralized location, right? It's always Japan that all this stuff is happening in different periods of time. It's like, like the only time I ever really saw any major crossover, it was like in the Persona 4 Ultimax game, right? Where it's like, oh, and now here's the Persona 4 characters and the Persona 3 characters, but the Persona 3 characters are a bit older. You know what I mean? So I think that was kind of like the cool part about that. So I like seeing that in there.
Yeah.
Any other games I've been playing though? I've been playing Deathloop.
I have Deathloop.
Yeah. Well, because like
interesting one.
You know what? Because it's so Dishonored coded. You know, I'm not sure if it's the same developers as Dishonored, but it's 100% Dishonored 2.5. You know what I mean? In terms of like the gameplay mechanics of the style of it and everything. But yeah, like I had seen the trailer for it and like the concept like a long time. Yeah, if I'm PS5, because it was on sale, and I was like, oh wow, that's like pretty sick. Like I like this concept and everything, but I don't know if I like when it would come out, this, that, or the other, and then like it just never really popped on my radar again until I just saw it randomly on sale. And I was like, no shit, let me give it a shot. And I love the idea of like how it just kind of starts you off just immediately in the middle of it. You know what I mean? When you're playing cool story, and like I haven't beaten it yet, but like the whole point is like you kind of don't beat it straightforward. You know what I mean? It's not one set forth goal of like, okay, you go to here, then you go to there, and you do this, and you do that. There's so many things that you have to try and fail at, and like you really have to like embrace the idea of trying anything you can. You know, go in super silent and just try to figure out the path on what's the best way to go, or just say fuck it, go guns blazing, spec yourself out to never get hit or whatever, right? Or just like a combination of the both. Who knows, right? But yeah, the whole
you're being
concept
hunted
of like,
by another live player, which is crazy.
yeah, I turned that shit off. I was like, I'm gonna get so annoyed. We get to that one spot where it's like, I know I'm doing good, and some no lifer who's been playing the game can smell my farts from 30 miles away snipes me immediately. I was like, all right, cool, I'm not interested anymore. Yeah, I like other than that though, like I love the style of the game. I love the feel of like, you know, sticking around and everything. It's definitely what I want since I've played Dishonored 2. You know what I mean? And I don't know, I've definitely been a big fan of the way it's coming around. So I'm excited to keep going and keep pushing on that.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, that's all we have for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon so you can be notified about new episodes dropping. I appreciate you watching. And if you guys have anything in the comments, anything you've been playing, please drop a comment below and let us know. And thanks for joining me on the show again, Soni.